Hello students, this is my example video for the You Read Me assignment, Getting to Know You. And the picture that you have in front of you now is of myself and my brother, probably late 80s. I'm probably about 8 or 9. My brother is probably, well, he's 2 years younger than me, so he must have been around 6 or 7 years old. And it's a picture of me baking my first cake. And the reason why I'm showing you this picture is because I wanted you to get a mental picture of who I was during the time period of my video story. But in any case, not too long ago, my husband and I had invited my brother and my sister-in-law and my 2 nieces over for dinner. And we had just finished eating, and we were sitting on at the table, and as we often do, my brother and I started reminiscing about old times. And all of a sudden he goes, "Hey, you remember when you got in a fight?" And I looked at him in disbelief. I go, "What?" I go, "I have never been in a fight in my whole life, and you know me." Because I'm a person especially I'm a person by nature very shy, introverted, and especially when I was younger, I was kind of a nerdy schoolgirl. I was into books and reading and homework. And I don't like conflict or fighting or anything like that. So I said, "No, I have never been in a fight in my life." And he goes, yes, you did. You got in a fight." And he proceeds to tell me the story about when we were young, when we lived we lived in a house in Merced, and he tells me that on that day, my 2 cousins, um, who are basically, because they're all the same age, they were born in the same year. My 2 cousins had came to visit my brother. They got dropped off, and it was probably about late morning, early afternoon, and they were going to be there all day. And they had came over to play and to hang out. And so my brother and I are very different. He's very outgoing, social. For him, it was about getting off of school and just coming home and going out to play and being outside. So when my cousins came over, those are his best friends. They were like a little posse. And so they were playing, and so at some point they went to this little store that was by our house, just down the block. And they went to go buy like candy and soda and things like that. And so further down the block there was these 3 boys that lived in that little neighborhood, and those 3 boys were like my brother's nemesis. Like, they never got into anything major. I mean, it was innocent. Just we you don't like us, we don't like you, and we're just gonna insult each other whenever we can, and that'll be the end of it. But today, that on that day, like, my cousins were over, and those 3 boys were together. I guess something had occurred at the store where they were at, and so there was gonna be this little cold war that happened between these 2 little groups. Was there was It was something, there was a little issue that was going on, and it was going to be throughout the day. So my brother came home playing with my cousins, and every once in a while these 3 boys would walk by the front of the house, and they would say stuff to my brother and my cousins, and then they would leave, and then nothing would happen. My brother and my cousins would go out through their day, whatever, playing, whatever. Meanwhile, I should say this, I was in the house. I was not a part of this, as you can tell, but they were having their thing. And so later on, they would come. The boys would go through the alley behind our house, because there was a big alley there, and we had this big backyard, and so much so that my dad would park his cars in the back, so they had a big gate. And so they would walk by and look in, and if they saw my brother and my cousins, they would go and they would say stuff and they'd take off. And so again, it went on off and on like this little beef that was going on, this little issue. And I would hear them playing or whatever, according to my brother, because remember, I didn't remember any of this. I should tell you, I had no idea. I completely do not remember that this event ever happened. But anyway, as my brother tells it, I was in the house or whatever. And so it was later in the evening, and my brother and my cousins were in the front yard, and I guess those boys had came by, kind of just say, "Hey, we're here," just like always. And so my brother says that one of my cousins had crossed the line with these boys. Like, he had said something, I don't know what, my brother knows, but I don't know what it was. But now there was going to be a full-fledged fight. And so somehow they started fighting, and the fight started in the front yard, and they took it to the backyard. and my room was the one closest to the backyard. So they're fighting back there, and I'm hearing commotion evidently, and I don't do anything, obviously. All of a sudden, I guess the three boys had like ganged up on my brother and started hitting my brother. And my brother said that he was saying like, "Stop hitting me," or what have you, or "Leave me alone," or whatever. And my brother says that just a little while after that, that he heard the back door fling open, boom, like the police. And here I come out. And I start yelling at the guys, "Hey, not my brother, not my brother, leave my brother alone," or whatever I was saying, shouting at them. But when I opened the door and I flung it open, like everybody stopped because they were in shock. Like I came out, like I said, like the police, he says. And so they just resumed fighting. And again, I'm shouting to "not my brother, leave my brother alone." And pretty soon, I guess they stopped, whomping on my brother. And I guess I went over there and I started pushing one of the guys, one of the three boys. And my brother and my cousins kind of pulled back because this is gonna go down now with me. And so my brother goes, "What's funny is that you got on your back, you went to the ground and you got on your back. You laid on your back on the ground and you brought your legs up. And they were reaching for you to hit you or grab you or whatever. And that what you did is you lifted your legs and you started to move your legs like a kangaroo, you know how, but instead of my arms, I used my legs. And so every time they would reach for me, I would I would have my legs. My brother's a mechanic, so he would say it was like a pistons in the motor, like boom, 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 boom. And depending on how motivated they were, would say how fast my legs would go. And so they had surrounded these three boys had surrounded me, and so I was using my body like a little turret. You know what a turret is? Basically like a little ball on an airplane or where it has guns on it that you can move it in all directions and it'll shoot. And so he says that this one would come from north, south, east, and that my legs would go. And he says, and then sometimes you would just lay there. You would just lie there. And they would just wait there and they were all breathing hard. And this went on, he says, for like the longest time. Like these kids were tired. And again, they would start again. They would be like, I'd lay there, wait for them, breathing, and everybody tired. And again, they would start again. One would come, and again, there goes my legs. And what's ironic is that this thing had stretched on for so long that my brother and my cousins had actually went inside. And they were looking out through the window and they were laughing at the boys. And meanwhile, I'm over here fighting the fight, watching all this thing. They were watching all these things. And then by that time, it was already dark because my uncle had came home from work. And so he goes in there, and now all four of them are watching this little spectacle go down. And so my uncle starts teasing my brother and my cousin, say, "Oh yeah, you're letting a girl fight your fight." So it was already late evening, I imagine. It wasn't super dark. But my brother says that I wore these guys down so badly that it was just a stalemate. And so they just left. and and that was my fight. And that's the story of my first fight. But we were laughing. I mean, I don't have my brother's sense of humor, but he would have said it a lot funny. He said it so much funnier than I did because he said has such a good memory. But that was my story. That's a moment, that's my defining moment of who I am now. And even though we all change and we all evolve, some things always stay the same. And I'm going to leave it up to you to decide what's my defining quality. Um, and it's funny because this picture was on my refrigerator one time. My brother did come in on another day or whatever, and he said, "You know what? That's actually, you see that picture right there? Me doing that, right? Right there? That's me waiting for the cake." Okay, guys, go ahead and stop this video. I'm sorry. This is a C minus. Probably now it's a D because it went way over. But anyway, start your video story. Make yours a B or an A. Mine's not good, but yours will be. Bye.